Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week on the Cyclekart I want to get the nose cone ready to make a mould from. See you in a minute. Right, I've got the tooling gel just rubbed down lightly now to get some of the high spots off, ready to take some filler. The only real area I think where I need to put a lot, well, I say a lot of filler, 2 or 3 mil skim rather than just a very light skim, is just there, because you've got it coming into quite a hard edge there, and that's because it comes up and slightly curves over more than it is doing at the moment. This side's okay, I think, it's not too far out at all, but I just need to put a little bit in there and then just go round putting a very fine skim of filler over the whole lot, and then I can knock it back until it starts to disclose the filler gel. And then round the edges I need to get a crisp edge on the edges, because they're all a bit beaten up and knocked about round there, and I couldn't get a decent edge with the plaster on those. And then there's just a couple of small areas where there are slight depressions that will come out when we get that filler in. So I'll go and get the filler on the go and we'll make a start. I think I'll do the same as I did before, do it in 2 halves, get roughly the top half sorted, and then I can turn it upside down, or maybe just work on one side, I don't know. But if I can get that top half done, we can then turn and get this, which is far worse under there. That needs a lot more work, but we can do that later. I'm using a U-Pole lightweight easy sand material. Let's mix it up a bit. There's a little bit of separation in there. We'll just put a squirt of filler in it, hardener in it I mean. We'll just get that mixed. Filthy stuff, but needs must. A few years since I've done this, but the last job I did on this was my Ford 100E Ford Pop that I did a lot of body work on in the early 70s. So it's not something I've done a lot of. I'll just have a little bit more hardener in. Much mixed in. Now all we want to do is just get it onto the base first and play with it later. The most important thing to do is to actually get it on, because if it starts going off, it's no good when it's on the palette. Right, that's got the top part pretty much sorted now. I'm clearly not, I'm putting too much hardener in, as I always used to. You just don't trust this stuff enough, and it's tending to go off far too soon, and it's not giving me a chance to really smooth it out. But all that means is I've just got a bit of extra sanding to do. But that's got the top part pretty much done, and a chance to try and sort out that piece there that was a little bit low. I'll start and knock this back once it's got a bit harder than it is at the moment, and then try and blend that bit in, and then when we turn it on its back to do this underneath part, if it needs any more work there, I can come back to it and add a bit more on then. But that seems to have gone on okay. I'm just going to leave it now for a couple of hours, and we'll come back to it when it's gone hard. I think you can see this is much harder to sand than the plaster, but it gives a much more solid finish, where you've got minor imperfections like there that I can just put a tiny skim in there now. But more importantly, on this top edge you can see getting a nice crisp sharp edge now, where I've got the filler right up to the edge, and that was something I couldn't achieve with the plaster. So although it's a bit more hard work, it is only effectively the last couple of layers that you need to do that on, and it is producing a much better finish. A little light fill here and there, and probably a spray of filler primer, and I think this will be just about ready for getting ready to take a mould off it. So that's got 2 layers of filler on this. I put a main layer on, skim over the top of body filler, and then I've been back and done a few patch repairs on low spots. It's not 100% perfect, there are still 1 or 2 minor depressions here and there, but I'm hoping with a spray now of primer filler will get me to where I need to be. There's obviously more bits, just tiny little stopping almost and pinholes that need doing, but I think we've reached the point now where we really need to start and get some finish on it, and then it can just be refined area by area with just a thumbnail of filler here and there, and it'll be easier to deal with when I can actually see better what really needs doing when you get some filler on it. So we'll start off with a coat of primer filler first. Well, on to the last knockings now with this. Just filling the last pinholes with a few spot fills and just sanding the primer filler down. This is down to 320 grit rather than the 80 grit I was using, and that gets it really smooth now. The primer filler has filled all the scratch marks of the 80 grit, and you basically just use your fingers then to find any spots that are a bit rough. They're probably the most efficient way of finding high spots. We'll just give this a last, I hope, rub down, and then we're ready for a normal prime and gloss finish. It's taken an awful long time for what's involved really, but I wanted to get a really good finish on it. This would have been the finish I could have got with just putting a layer of glass fibre on top of the mould or the buck. But I just want to, for the sake of doing something and learning more, make this into a buck, make a mould of it, and then actually form one in a shell in fiberglass. A couple of advantages to that. I know I said I was going to just glass over this and then finish it. What it means is that this will be the finished size of the nose cone, external dimensions. If I go to mould on top of this, it's going to end up 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch bigger, 5 or 6 mil on each side probably, I don't know, depending on how much glass goes into the nose cone. And I didn't really want that because this has been all designed that this is the finished size. So I know I said earlier that I was going to do it differently. I've changed my mind. I really want to get the best job I possibly can, and that's probably where I'm differing from many of the Cyclekart builders. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing it the other way, but I'm doing this with my model maker's head on rather than a Cyclekart builder's head, and I think I'm just striving for a slightly better finish just for the sake of doing it. It won't make any difference at all to the car, won't make any difference to the way it looks, but to me it's just that, trying to get it looking as close to a factory job as I can. I really want this to be as close as possible as I can to an 80% scale model of the real thing. You can see if you get up close where all the paint has gone into the filler and gone into the base, I mean, and filled all the scratch marks from the 80 grit, and the sort of difference in finish you get with this 320 grit. Normally I'd do it with wet and dry, but I just wanted to keep water away from things at the moment. There's plenty of scope to have a bit of dust in here, but I didn't really want to get a lot of water on the go. Right, that's finally got that ready for coat of paint now. Primer's on. There's one or two absolutely minuscule pinholes, but I've really reached the point now where I'm not going to mess around with it anymore. A couple of areas where it's not perfect, but they won't matter because all of that will be cut out. So that's ready to paint, so I can then get a mould made off it. There's only one other thing I've thought about that is wrong at the moment. This whole area is liable to be cut out to make room for the front axle. but to do a mould that's got that sort of a cutout in it will be difficult to strip, and it's pointless to have a big area like that I've then got to just cut out. So effectively what I need to do is just make a little filler piece in there that is either at the surface or just below the surface, so that the actual mould itself will be able to just follow that round there and not have too much difficulty in stripping it when I come to get it out. So I'll just make a little filler piece up, and then we can get a coat of paint on it, wax it, and it's ready to go. As I say, and have mentioned before, it's not perfect, but it's a damn sight better than I would have thought I could have got, so I'm quite happy with that. And it's like as smooth as a baby's bottom when it's finished. So there we are, after a lot of messing around. I've just put a coat of metallic green spray that I'd got left over from some other job on top of that. Now it gives us a nice clear finish. I might put a clear coat on top, I'm not sure, but that is now ready for a mould to be taken off, and another step forward on the nose cone. Well, that's got the nose cone pretty much to a stage where I think I can take a mould off it. It remains to be seen how well that will turn out, and whether or not I use that same process for doing the scuttle and the tail. There's a huge amount more area in the tail unit, and a lot of it is flat and straight, so I may go back to the original idea of making a buck that I can then just put a layer of glass over and fair up the same as I've done with this, but just use that as the finish on it with body filler basically on the curved top part. The reason I wanted the nose cone was so that I would learn stuff about making moulds and the like, which hopefully I will, but also it's the most vulnerable part of the car. It's most likely, if I'm going to do any damage to it at all, it'll be at the front end, and therefore it would be useful to have that facility to go back and get another one made if I needed one. So I hope that was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next time. We'll be doing something different on the Cyclekart, and I'll see you then. Bye!